There
we go. All right, are my slides showing up on your screen then?
Yeah, let me see if I can full screen. It is full. Chrome is full screen. All right. Well.
No. You go to view. View presentation mode.
There we go. Okay.
There we go. That'd be easier.
All right.
Okay.
Yes. There we go. We can see your slides.
Okay. Awesome. So, for anyone that's watching this, you guys are the Raleigh Meteor Meetup, right?
Yes.
All right. So.
We're in Durham.
Durham. Nice. Okay. So, I'm giving a talk on hosting and scaling with Meteor.js. If you don't know me, I'm Josh Owens. You can find me at this plethora of places below. I run the Meteor podcast. I do kind of like a weekly blog post and email called Meteor.js Club, and I also run Crater. So feel free to check any of that stuff out. So when it comes to Meteor, you have actually quite a few options for hosting now. Probably the simplest and the easiest is just hosting on the Meteor.com infrastructure. And you can just do like a Meteor deploy and then give it an app name, and it'll deploy at that subdomain. So if we say like Meteor deploy talks, then talks.meteor.com will be your app. And then they tie that to your Meteor developer user account for security purposes. So someone else can't deploy your app unless you give them permission to. I think that this is great for prototyping or showing off to a client or showing off at a demo or anything like that. But for me, the Meteor.com hosting has a few downsides. One of them is like, who do you email when something is busted or goes down? There's really no official support behind it. You could probably go hassle Slava, who might be watching this, on Twitter, and maybe he'll help you and maybe fix it. And maybe that's changed, but that was my experience quite a while ago. The other thing is you don't really get full access to the environment, so you can't really figure out what your Mongo string is for connection and like remotely looking at your database. There's really no way to like scale up and have more app servers handling things. So it's a really basic solution right now, but they are working on Galaxy. I'm guessing we'll see something within the next 6 months from them for officially hosting production apps. But for now, like I would, this is great for doing little tests, but I would not put a production app here. Next up is Modulus. So this is what the dashboard kind of looks like here. This is an older screenshot. It may have changed a little bit here and there, but basically what you get there is it's a platform as a service. So they give you little containers, they call them servos, that run your app. And so you do like a Meteor deploy, or not a Meteor deploy, Modulus deploy. You install their little command line tool from NPM, and then you can do the Modulus deploy, and it'll ask you like to log in, and then it'll ask you which app you're deploying if you have more than one app, and then it'll take that code and it'll I think the process is that they compress it and ship it to their server. They recognize that it's a Meteor app, and they do all the proper things on their end to host that Meteor app. The only gotcha with Modulus is that you have to set up a lot of the environment variables, and you have to set up the database. Like that stuff is not automatic with them. And so you can go into their admin interface and create a Mongo database and stuff. But I wouldn't even really recommend that. Like if you're doing production, I would host with Modulus, but I'd probably put my data over on Compose.io. And I didn't put a slide in here for them, but we can talk about that at the end too. They do great Mongo hosting. And I think the key here with them is, one, they cost about $15 a month for a servo. Two, they do sticky session tracking for their router, which means that you can scale out beyond just one servo. So the way that you would scale out on Modulus, you would probably host with something like Compose.io and get an oplog enabled Mongo database, and then hook that up to your Modulus setup using environment variables. And then anytime you need to like handle more traffic, you just tell it to like just boot more servos. There's a little slider, and you go from 1 to 4, whatever you need, and then just hit apply, and it'll spin those up for you. It's pretty quick, and then they've got nice logs in there and that kind of stuff as well. So for me, like I host some of my apps at Modulus, some of them at Heroku, and some of them on DigitalOcean. So I can kind of speak to the differences once we get to the questions portion. Heroku is the other kind of easy hosting solution. The only thing that I would say is with Heroku, you use what they call build packs. So they have little containers as well, and they call them, what do they call those things? Dynos. And they're little containers that run your app as well. But they use Git to ship your code up there, and then if you're not using Rails, then you need to give them a build pack, which is essentially like a series of bash scripts that tell Heroku what needs to be installed in order to run your app. And so there's a large community effort, you can go out there and look, of Heroku Meteor build packs. But the latest one that seems to work with 1.0 is called like the horse build or something like that. I can find the link and put it up somewhere. But I've got an article that kind of compares all these, and I link to the horse build pack. But it does a good job. The gotcha here is that they don't do sticky sessions for their routing, so you can run into trouble because they're doing like login tracking, and that's all kind of dependent on the sticky session stuff. So if you scale to more than one, you may start to run into some weird issues. So it's great. You can host for free there for your first dyno. I think if you don't have a high traffic site, Heroku does a great job, and their add-on marketplace has a lot of options as far as the Meteor or the Mongo hosting. And I think by default, when you use the horse build pack, it installs the free Mongo hosting option for you. So the third option is just hosting it on your own, and there are numerous ways you could set that up. I mean, you could use Ansible or Docker or Chef or any of this stuff. But the easiest tool to get started with is Meteor Up. It's a package from Aeronota, and basically it's some scripts that you have that you can run. It uses SSH to like put your app over on the server, and so you do like Meteor Up, I think setup or something along those lines, and then once it's been set up, like it'll install Node, and it'll install, if you wanted to, you can tell it to install Mongo. Again, like I still use Compose for when I'm using Meteor Up because I want that oplog capability from them. And then once it's set up, you just say Meteor deploy, and it'll grab the current version that's in the folder, and it'll ship it up to the server for you, and deploy it, and then restart everything. So Meteor Up's taking care of the upstart scripts and installing everything, and then it's also your deploy command. And so you can use this with any hosting provider like Linode or DigitalOcean or Amazon EC2. So pretty basic option, but I think it probably gives you the most flexibility in the long run. is if you're hosting on your own, and then like you control the routing and that kind of stuff. So you can set up your own load balancer and make sure it's done the right way. All right, so the other part of this talk is scaling. I think the biggest piece for scaling when it comes to Meteor is Mongo itself. And in 0.7 they added oplog support, and basically what that is a fancy way to say that you're going to set up a Mongo replica, and you have a